Yo, 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 yo.
Wait, no. Boom.
Alright, ready?
Kayfabe Gimmicks! You know where to find us on Facebook. We're on YouTube. Fiction Entertainment, brother. YouTube. Fiction Entertainment, brother. YouTube.
Fucking #1 Kayfabe Gimmicks podcast ever is up.
How are you looking for?
Put words in the wrong place.
Are you recording all this, dude? The best wrestling podcast that's always been.
What you gonna do, brother, when the beast starts talking about wrestling and drinking whiskey and it's all crazy up in here?
Alright, welcome to Kayfabe Gimmicks Season 3. This is sNooVa. I got two motherfuckers with me tonight.
You got me, Ruff Lee.
Because he really does want to be DDT.
You mean
And we have... What?
You said
You
DDT.
said T.
Yeah, well... Oh, yeah, because you want me a DDT to the damn head. And we have the incorrigible heel, Stephen Prather.
That's right. That's right. We're going to diss on Sasha Banks tonight, Lloyd. I know you're listening. I know you're
Because
listening.
he is the trollish one. We are not talking about no goddamn Sasha. What we are talking about is our... this is not a wrestling podcast, is it?
I
I
thought
it was.
I'm pretty sure the gimmick is this is not a wrestling podcast. What have you been doing in your life, Ruff?
I've been moved to a new house, which means unpacking and moving the studio. I've been busy gigging out 5 bands, soon to be 6.
I saw that.
So, when's your next show?
I've got a show tomorrow up in Kennesaw, Georgia for, they always do their independence celebration on July 3rd, which is why you can find 3rdofjuly.com, and it goes to them.
Huh. You got one on the 4th too, then?
No, I don't have one on the 4th.
Oh. So you're taking the 4th off.
Got the 4th
What do you got
off.
coming up in the next couple weeks?
Friday, I'm going to be in, I'm in McDonough, Georgia at Motorheads with the Velociraptors. And then Saturday the 8th is first show of one of the new bands. They're called Wicked. And that's in Villa Rica at Cinema Tavern.
So they learned from you, huh? That's why they're wicked.
You know that.
Well, we will definitely have this up before Friday, I'm thinking. Steven, what's going on with you lately? What you been up to?
Not much, man. I'm working, doing my job, and that's really been about it.
What have you been playing? I mean, you gotta have had something going on. Or reading.
I mean, honestly, no. I mean, I just started training a new class, so it's really like I'm like behind on everything. Like
I understand.
I catch Raw and SmackDown in snippets right now. So for me, it's been kind of just last week and this week are just super busy, and then
Well-
after that I should be calmed down.
On that same note, I gotta feel the exact same way. I was watching Raw and SmackDown every week there at one point because my schedule was really working out in a way that I could. But holy fuck, man, you come home from a 10-hour day of work and 3 hours of Raw, and then going back for another 10-hour day of work at 8 in the morning is not fun, especially when Raw's not over till 11 o'clock.
11:15.
Exactly, and then you're up for another hour, calming down, whatever, chilling out. I'd fall asleep for a half hour during Raw, I'd be up till 2 in the morning. Like, it's better to just go to bed at 10 o'clock and be up at 8.
Yeah, they schedule it for 11:05, but what's the latest that we've ever seen Raw run? I think the record I saw was 11:23.
Yeah, I was gonna say somewhere about 11:30, and that was like back in the Attitude Era.
No. Shawn Michaels versus John Cena in an Iron Man match. I have talked about this match multiple times now. I want to tell you that this match took Raw till at least 11:30. It was April 2007. It's a 45-minute match, actually.
So
It's
one of those
45
best of
match.
3 falls, or what?
I don't even think it was a 2 out of 3 matches. I think it was just a 45-minute match out of nowhere. I mean, I don't really want to pull it all up right now. I can't watch it, obviously. We're in the middle of a podcast. But it was one of those... It's just a random Monday night. It was late April '07. Shawn Michaels challenges Cena to a rematch for the main event of Raw. And, like, this is, like, just random as hell. And they went on for 45 minutes.
Can't
45
stop,
minutes.
Won't stop.
And it was near fall. They went finisher for finisher. It was crazy. It was crazy. Oh, God. That didn't kick in on anybody else's audio, did it?
What?
No.
Oh, exactly. Good, good, good. I just had something blare in my ear for a second while I was looking this up. But I want to tell you that Raw went on past 11 o'clock. I think it did. Like, it went to about 11:30. It was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen on a Raw, too. And I wish that we could kind of have that magic again. In defense of that, I actually like these kinds of things. We're at, what, WrestleMania 33 just happened? Right?
Right?
Yeah.
32 was the one where it went to like 11:45, right?
Think so.
That was my favorite WrestleMania ever because there was a lot of twist and that sheer fact that, like, oh, fuck it, we don't give a shit. We're going to start the main event at like 11 o'clock and still go for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I like
now that
those
they
kind
have
of
the
weird
luxury
twists.
now that they have the luxury of the network, they're not at the mercy of those regular restrictions anymore. They can run it all the way, and that's why they can do the live shows from Japan if they want to without having to worry about it.
Exactly. No, I mean, I see that argument. Like, look, I mean, I didn't think a 7-hour WrestleMania was going to be something I was interested in, but I stayed awake the entire time and was there at the edge of my seat by the end. Like, oh, I'm excited to see how this goes.
Speaking of times, I know that I related the story to you, but Steven, did you hear The Rock telling the story about running late on Raw?
No.
Oh, I remember this story. Yeah, this is great. This is like one of the best things you can hear.
He used to, The Rock himself said this in an interview. He always used to get yelled at by Vince for running late on a show. And he'd get backstage and imitating Vince. He said, "Damn it, Rock. I told you that you can't be running all this. You're costing me all kinds of money." And The Rock looked at Vince and said, "I know, but I'm telling a story. And you know as well as I know that greatness takes time." And when he said that to Vince, Vince just stopped in his tracks and gave him a grin. And he's like, "You're right. Greatness takes time." So
That's right.
that's why I'm fine with Raw running however long it needs to in order to do its job.
Oh, I would agree with that if they didn't think greatness was Roman Reigns.
Look, okay, so, like, let's go straight into this, apparently. We're going to go straight into this. We had a few things we're going to touch on tonight, but I want to get into this anyways. Obviously, we're a wrestling podcast. There are other wrestling podcasts that exist. We are not going to keep no kayfabe on this. Jim Cornette just published his Dave Meltzer interview. And god damn it, man, it is a great listen. It's almost 2 hours long. Well worth your motherfucking time. But Dave came out. And Dave said, hey, I was at one of those WWE events. It was a video game event, to be exact. Stone Cold was hosting it. And Roman and Cesaro are, like, over in the corner just fucking around. And they brought this up, and they're talking about this, like, Roman's really quick wit. Like, he has a quick wit. You throw something at him, he's going to come back at you. He's going to hit you with something. And Cesaro is just fucking amazing, as we all know.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, you put these guys out there, and you give them a script, and you don't tell them to make it their own. They're scared to make it their own. They don't want to cause these problems. And instead you get this half-ass shit. If you got that quick-tempered, quick off the head Roman who's going to hit you with some fuck shit and leave you there, you're going to get interesting results.
I'm kind of down with this because I feel like where they're dropping the ball is if you've taken the time to develop someone's character enough to take them to main roster, then I say you let them sink or swim off of their ability to perform in the moment, and you let them take something basic and run with it. Because Dolph Ziggler doesn't have a problem. We know what an icon Cena is as far as hitting back. And both those guys are like 12 years in the program now, aren't they?
Oh,
No, I
yeah,
hear you.
yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's something they changed from the old days. So kayfabe, I'm gonna hit you with an old guy out there that we don't like to talk about. Chris Benoit. Let's look at Chris Benoit. Was not the best talker. We all know this.
He was horrible.
But what did they do? They knew where he was awesome, which is in the ring. Okay? And they gave him Shane McMahon. Now, eventually, Benoit got better at promos, but he was never great. But back in that day, they did a little scripting, but said, make it your own. And that's where we got our biggest superstars, like Austin, The Rock. I mean, hell, Jericho, Angle. I mean, you can guide them, but let them make it their own. I feel like Roman, when he talks and he's reading a script, is just, I just want to plunge my fingers into my eyes because it's horrible.
I understand where you're coming from there. I do. The most I've liked Roman was, I really liked his promos against Rusev, actually, last year.
Mm-hmm.
Where he was talking shit about that, and he's a great shit talker. Like a face type shit talker. I love it. I love him getting in a heel's face and talking shit to them and just treating them like they're idiots. I think it works. Look, during Meltzer and Cornette's interview, like they said, certain people are going to sink and certain people are going to swim very well. You get a guy like Enzo. I think Enzo's going to he's going to swim amazingly if you take him off script and just let him be.
I mean, he would swim, but unfortunately, Vince is going to put the lead boots on him. He's going to end up being your new job squad. That's it. That is Enzo's life in WWE now.
I hear you. Well, I mean, who are some of the people you guys think would fail? I actually think Baron Corbin would probably succeed. Nia Jax, I think, would be a failure doing her own little thing.
I agree with Nia Jax. Baron Corbin, I don't get. People like him. I don't get it. I don't like the character. I don't like his voice. But then you see people who should swim and exceed, and they don't. Dolph Ziggler, to me, is the biggest standout of that. He had the opportunity, but if you look at how much, Dolph Ziggler should be in a main event. He should. There's no question. He has the speaking ability. He has the wrestling talent. As far as new guys, I'm kind of scared about Nakamura. Nakamura is amazing, but I feel like eventually that language barrier is going to hit him.
I enjoy his language barrier to an extent.
I do too, but
I have fun with how he talks and how he treats people and how he acts with them.
Oh, I love him. I mean, I've followed him since New Japan. But I feel like eventually people are just going to be like, what's his big deal? And we're going to end up with, who were they? Kai and Tai back in the WWE? And they were like, we are evil. I have I would hate to see Vince go. Exactly.
But so, like, I mean, that's what I'm saying, though. Like, Corbin has surprisingly come out and been able to pull off some promos that I'm impressed by lately.
If
There's
they would
still
let
some
him,
stupid there, but I kind of think he might have it.
I could be surprised. I would say the Revival, to me, as much as I didn't really care for them in NXT, the more that I've gone back and watched them, their promos are good. If they would let them go off unscripted, I think any kind of feud with New Day would be absolutely amazing.
I mean, I think their in-ring speaks for itself.
Oh,
their in-ring work is great. But so who do you think would fail on the mic then? Let's start with Ruff.
Becky Lynch. She's a train wreck waiting to happen on the mic.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever said this on a kayfabe. I will definitely happily say it now. She has the voice of a deaf woman.
Yeah. She's terrible
It's
enough when she's
horrible.
scripted. I can't. I don't want to see her try to do it freeform.
Yeah. But I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with uh, Big Cass. Big Cass has the voice of the Abominable Snowman from the Looney Tunes cartoons. Enzo is the mouthpiece of that group, and I understand why they split them up, but I think Cass's in-ring talent is not as good. Or it's
As
not.
Diesel was in
Yeah,
'93.
it's not to a level. It's not to a level that you can forget he's a horrible talker.
He's
Because
not even a Baron Corbin, so I don't know why they're doing the split now.
yeah, I mean, the only way they could surprise me is if Enzo wins the feud. Like that would be the only way I'd be like, oh my god, I can't believe this.
You know, I
Um,
can see that happening because you can treat him like the new little guy. We've got a couple lucha guys out there, but none of them can win over a crowd the way that Rey Mysterio did, and you
that's
get
true.
that kind of ability out of Enzo.
Yeah,
Now, go ahead.
I was going to say they need to let Enzo. I mean, that's my biggest problem right now. As far as when you look at a tag team, there's always one member of any face tag team who is basically the beatdown partner. I mean, really, if you think about it, look at Enzo and Cass. It's always Enzo, always getting beat down.
Yeah.
You look at New Day. It used to be
Xavier.
Xavier Woods, and now that he's not really wrestling, it's usually ends up being Kofi. If you look at, let's see who else, Heath Slater and Rhino. There's always in the face team. There's that one guy whose job is nothing more than to get beat down,
And
and
be the
Um,
mouth.
that's
oh God,
horrible.
I can't think of his name. The guy with Gargano in DIY.
Oh,
No, Ciampa. Ciampa's the one who doesn't get beat down. Gargano's the one who does get the beat down.
yeah. I mean, that shouldn't be the way it is. I understand the back and forth. That's cool, but at the same time, you need to be able to sell both because at the end of the day, every tag team should be able to split and be single wrestlers and have a good match. We're stuck in
Oh
the
no, I
era.
mean I definitely see where you're coming from. In heel tag teams, I think JTG was the guy for the beatdown.
Yeah. And you don't see that too much. Like, look at the Usos. I mean, granted, they both look alike, but not really when they're heels does one of them get beat down a whole lot. They don't get stuck in the ring. And I think that's just a thing with heel teams, except for a couple. But like Marty Jannetty, we're living in the tag teams have lived through this era where there always has to be a Marty Jannetty.
You need that.
I mean, I see where you're coming from. To round up the topic we were on, I'd say my one person who I think would fail if you put him in that sink or swim category, Sami Zayn. Completely doesn't want to talk, really, if we go off the El Generico character. And I think he's happiest not talking, really.
I think I'd agree with that, but I also feel like Sammy has that Daniel Bryan factor to him. People love him. Daniel Bryan didn't have to talk. And let's face it, Daniel Bryan is nowhere near the greatest promo guy in the world.
But I don't know. I mean, the whole reason he got fired might be because he's like the greatest character wrestler ever.
So
On the plus side, I'm talking about people who would be good on a mic. I'm really, really disappointed in general in the fact that they wanted to take someone who is as good in NXT as Tyler Breeze and stick him into an unimportant tag.
But that
I
team
feel
would be
like
great.
they've really come a long way. I like them. I love them now. They're fun.
They have taken a shit idea that Vince was like, let's do this, or whoever came up with their idea. They have done for themselves what Shane Helms did with the Hurricane.
They've turned it into a full gimmick that's fun every week. I look forward to those things.
I cannot.
It's okay. I just want more.
Oh, I want more, I feel the same way. Since Tyler Breeze came up, it's been a big disappointment. Especially when you go back and watch some of his old matches, or even some of his old promos. It's definitely not that level that we're used to. But I feel that's just the prejudice that you see because Tyler Breeze is really a small guy. And as we know, Vince likes him big and hulking.
Big muscle.
Oh man, it's a mile of a hess of a state with the WWE recently. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm not necessarily negative on it. My most negative thing, of course, has been Brock Lesnar lately when it comes to Raw. That and the fact that Raw is trying to replay a lot of SmackDown's feuds and not doing them as well as SmackDown did them the year before. That is a major issue. But what?
I mean, it happens. All feuds play over. I think for Raw, I mean, I really feel like Raw's not the best show anymore. It is SmackDown that kind of sets the bar.
Crackdown definitely sets the bar because it's something you want to tune into every week. That 2 hours makes it real nice, real enjoyable. I really preferred it when there was no 205 Live, and that extra half hour to go straight into Talking Smack was a lot of fun. I don't watch Talking Smack anymore because fuck 205 Live. I don't want to sit there for an hour of 205 Live and see Alicia Fox get wasted.
I mean, 205 Live was the greatest idea they had, and then they ruined it. It was the cruiserweight. But, I mean, when you say cruiserweight, and maybe it's just me, I think back to the old days of, WCW. And remember their cruiserweight? Juventud Guerrera, El Parca.
Billy Kidman.
Billy Kidman. Remember when Billy Kidman won the title, how big that was? Those times, those matches went on forever, and they were amazing. And that's why I tuned into WCW was the cruiserweights. And then I get 205, and what I'm watching is basically the same wrestling that happens on Raw and every place else, just with smaller guys. Like Cedric Alexander. I've seen him in Ring of Honor. The guy can go. I don't know where it went when he came to the WWE, but they're holding them back. Their cruiserweights are not doing what cruiserweights are expected to do.
Let's say this, right? Okay, so here's my big issue with 205 Live. One, all the cruiserweights are supposedly part of Raw still. Why the fuck do you come on after SmackDown? Two, more importantly,
because Neville says so.
There are some great things in there. Austin Aries, Jack Gallagher. I love Gallagher. Gallagher is fabulous.
Neville's awesome.
Neville, I don't know. I like Neville. I don't like Neville. He's doing a good job, I guess, as a heel. I'm kind of bored with his title run by now, though. I feel like they don't need to really run this as long as they have. I don't give a shit about Perkins. I did enjoy Brian Kendrick versus Akira Tozawa. I love Akira Tozawa.
Who can sell the heat as well as Neville as far as heel, because the only reason, once again, it goes back the same way as comic books. Without great villains, then heroes are nothing more than muscle-bound guys in tights.
Oh, yeah.
But this is the 205 problem. Like, you got a great guy there like Grand Metalik, and we don't get enough of Grand Metalik, I feel. When was the last time Grand Metalik got a match on Raw?
That's true.
They always do a cruiserweight match on Raw, but then, Grand Metalik hasn't shown up on Raw in months. Or at all, I don't think, actually.
And then you got the Bollywood boys.
Well, they moved on to the main roster in a way that I like. I love that faction. I mean, if we're going to talk about it real quick, I love that faction. Jinder Mahal's run right now is a reason why I do like SmackDown over Raw.
Jinder's great.
Jinder's grown. But let me tell you something. Y'all don't count on Jinder, because here's what's going to happen. Jinder's going to get a wellness violation. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that, yes, he is. He's going to get one, and it's going to be for enhancement, like Chris Masters.
It is a grand claim. I'm going to give you this. This is hateful and hurtful, and I don't know how to feel about it.
It's going to happen.
Oh, man. I was really segueing this into the Brock Lesnar problem, because this is my big thing right now. And there are talks in the dirt sheets about them dropping the belt to Roman, maybe, as soon as SummerSlam. Will this fix Raw's problems, Steven?
No. Roman is not going to fix any of Raw's problems.
But having a regular champion, will that fix some of it?
No. Who can? Okay. So, answer. I'll open this up to both of you. Who can Roman honestly bring the best out in? Nobody. The champion needs to be someone who can raise the bar and have a good match with anybody. Okay.
I mean, at
Roman-
the same point, who does Brock Lesnar bring the best out of?
Let's see. If we're not looking at nowadays, look at his matches with Kurt Angle. Look at his
We
matches.
only
with
can look at nowadays, though, because he
Okay.
wrestles completely different.
Who could bring out the best, and who could Brock Lesnar bring the best out in? I mean, now with his character the way it is, probably not a whole lot. But
Maybe Joe.
this match with Joe should be a slugfest. It should be a bloody. It doesn't need to be a technical match. It needs to be a bloodfest. But Roman, if they're gonna put the belt on Roman, I mean, then we're basically saying, hey, Joe's not going to win the belt. And I would love to say that Joe would win the belt against. I would rather see Brock Lesnar drop the belt to Joe, because to me, Joe can bring out better matches than Roman can. You could put Joe in the ring with Finn Balor and have an amazing match. You could put, we've seen it. We've seen Joe versus Seth Rollins. You could put Joe in the ring with AJ Styles in a cross match, and it would be amazing. Joe can put on amazing matches. He would be my pick to get the belt. Roman's not going to fix it, but it's who Vince likes. And so that's probably, I would agree, that's the way they're going to go. But is he going to get the belt at SummerSlam, or is he going to get it at WrestleMania?
If you do SummerSlam, then you're looking at, we got to start future casting about what's going to happen at Mania next year.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about this a little bit, Ruff. Do you want to go into it?
No, I'm going to let
Go
you
for it.
run with it first.
Oh, man. Let's see what we had been discussing. The other thing on the books right now is Kurt Angle versus H at SummerSlam, which appalls me in more ways than I want to talk about.
That seems really early, because I want Kurt to do it at WrestleMania if you're going to need to do it at the first place. But the problem, I know I said I was going to let you run with it, but the inherent problem is that Triple H wants to bury people.
Oh, yeah.
I don't see Kurt going over, and I don't see it being a positive. My best hopes is that Kurt performs so well that they decide to let Kurt wrestle for another year.
There's
Or 5.
They're going to clear him, though. That's the problem. They're saying, like, yeah, he's not cleared. He's not cleared.
No, it's going to be...
But if they want that one and done match and clear him, then they can say, hey, you did so good, why don't we keep you wrestling?
No, they're going to do a one and done. They're just not going to keep him. They're not going to keep him wrestling. This is his time to come out, just the same way they've used the GM position for Mick Foley to come back for a little bit, for, to give other people who are under contract something to do. I
got a sense that they're a little bit scared after Sting of having anyone do more than one match.
Yeah.
And I can't necessarily disagree with that. So then my other thing about this is then I want Joe to win. I want this Joe fight to go so good that they rematch at SummerSlam and Joe wins.
I would prefer to have Joe win. I think if you're going to have, you have to have someone who believably Brock Lesnar can lose to. And we've seen the Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, and no matter how much they want to push Roman, he still gets booed more than he gets cheered.
I think the casuals love him, though.
I think they do, but against Brock Lesnar? No. I mean, if they drop it to Joe, you could make Joe give on a great match with Roman. He could pull out a great Roman Reigns match.
I agree.
And you could drop the belt to Roman then. But you're not going to get a great match out of Roman with Brock Lesnar. It's not going to happen. Brock, as much as I like Brock and growing up with Brock, watching him back in the day, this is not the same Brock. This is suplex a couple of times, kick you, punch you, that's about it. I mean,
it's really closer to about 20 suplexes, and
Yeah.
we're going to count all of them, guys.
I'll put it this way. If it was Samoa Joe versus Goldberg, those could have been great matches. And not because Goldberg's good. But look what we got both times with, or was it twice or 3 times with Goldberg and Lesnar?
It was technically 3 times if you count the Royal Rumble.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, those matches, throwaway matches, really. They never should have given the belt to Goldberg off KO. And we know how I feel about Kevin Owens.
Yeah?
They should not have taken the belt off KO for Goldberg.
But they gave it, the reason to give it to Goldberg is so that you can say that he was a WWE champion.
Oh, yeah. That was the whole point. And it made more buys for Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar than you probably could have got. I mean, that's what at the end of the day it's about, is buys. So I get it, but those matches weren't good.
All right. Well, I mean, look, I agree. We know how I feel about Tubby Kevin Owens as well. Let me say this, though. I will say that Tubby Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns was one of my all-time favorite matches.
That was a good match.
Great fucking match, dude.
Oh, no, I agree. And
That's a feud they're going to have to repeat anyway. Once you put the belt on Roman, it's either going to be Joe or it's going to be KO as far as a decent feud if you're going to get out of him. The smart thing would be what we were saying and let them run free when it comes to cutting promo. Because I bet you the two of them would be able to cut a better promo unscripted than with a script.
Kevin Owens could cut promos like no. I think if they let Kevin Owens go, he would do great with his own promos. We've seen it. Roman, I'd like to see. I want to see what he can do.
I definitely agree. I would really like to see where Roman could go. I'm not necessarily even saying heel. I don't feel like that's the solution to the problem. I don't. I feel like that's a shitty fix, to be honest with you guys. I don't feel like, oh, you're a heel now, that means you're going to get over. No, it doesn't.
No.
I think it's a good way to actually disenfranchise the people who are Roman fans, and I think that the Roman fans probably outnumber us.
I would agree.
Just by looking at the network subscribers, you know that. I mean, it's a subscription service that still hasn't hit 2 million viewers, or monthly subscribers, at one time. And yet, strangely enough, pulls in anywhere from 2 to 3 million viewers just on its Raw and SmackDown shows.
Roman is your guy, whether you like it or not. They're busy showing his be a dad ad in every commercial break on CNN.
Oh, yeah. No, he's their guy. He's their next John Cena, whether I like it or not. And I understand that. That's the guy they've chosen to represent as the face of their company. He is their next John Cena. By the time he retires, he will have been world champion at least 12 times.
He's already 3-time champion.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm going 12.
So, I mean, let's be realistic, though. You know, because we've been talking about Owens. I actually tweeted to Owens the other day. I'm like, look, man, I feel like you should just be a face by now. Like, we all know about your happy dadness, so, like, just be, like, the happy-go-lucky fat guy you really are. And then you just be the jolly chubby guy.
And then you got blocked.
I don't know. Did I? I mean, that's a good question. I probably did. I mean, I didn't say it quite like that, but I mean, that's what I was thinking in my head when I was tweeting this out to him.
I honestly feel like, now I know the WWE's been recruiting talent, but they've been recruiting talent at an insane rate, be it for the women's only tournament that's coming up or across the board of any other talent. It's like they're not even being selective now. But there's some great talent out there that they should bring in that could really elevate their people if they would let them go. I think that's WWE's biggest fault right now is the scripting, the overall scripting. You don't need a whole story team. You really don't.
Especially when the story team won't do its job and let you build a feud properly so you get heat before the pay-per-view.
Exactly. I mean, how many feuds have we gone through, guys, lately, like in the past year, that the build-up's just been like, huh? Especially now that they've added pay-per-views. Look at
That's why I'm
am.
concerned about the idea of Angle versus H.
look at Goldust and R-Truth. This is an angle for some reason the story team has decided should take what feels like 5 years.
Well, I mean, look at it from this aspect, right? I mean, I'm enjoying the Angle and R-Truth stuff enough, but my real issue here is, like, do we really need Battlegrounds? Does SmackDown really need a pay-per-view before SummerSlam? I get the fact that we haven't had a title match on Raw. It needs one before SummerSlam.
Mm-hmm.
But do we really need one for SmackDown, too?
We have to do it.
Yeah, they have to have a certain number because, I mean, granted, they're the same company, but it's almost like since they're two separate lines, you're trying to show revenue from each one. Before, you had wrestlers that went back and forth between both shows. Now you have wrestlers on one show, and if they're not doing road shows during certain parts, then you're losing out with them under contract.
Definitely agreed.
Does it make sense to me? Not really, depending on when Battlegrounds happens to when SummerSlam happens, how far they are apart. I mean, we had one time where there was like a brand-specific pay-per-view and then a cross pay-per-view.
Right.
Like the following like week or so, and I'm just like, this makes no sense. Also, probably cut out some of the gimmick matches. Like, as much as I like Jinder Mahal, even though I say he's going to get suspended, this Pujambi cage match.
I'm actually really excited for this, and it better be a WWE 2K18.
Dude,
You go to hell.
Let me
You
tell
go
you.
to hell.
Let me tell you something. If I was Jinder, I would look back on the past of that match. Has anybody but a white guy ever won that?
I really hope Jinder's the first person. I hope Jinder's the first person to retain in a Punjabi prison match. Look, the first two had Kali in them. Maybe there's a reason the fucking Indian man didn't win. I'm just saying. Kali couldn't move, and yet you wanted him to climb 2 fucking cages.
That's for
what
sure.
What the fuck were they thinking?
That is true.
In Jinder's defense, I feel like Jinder losing the belt at SummerSlam makes the most sense if they're going to strip the belt from him.
Where does Jinder go from here, though, if he doesn't lose? Think about that. Who is he going to fight next?
He really wants a John Cena feud, and I guess that's where we're going to go here. We got a few minutes left in this podcast.
Well, if they go John Cena, then you might as well say, hello, new Ric Flair. Because John Cena's going to win, and he's going to hit that mark.
It's
not
necessarily.
necessarily.
It's not even that. It's Hogan and Iron Sheik if you do that.
Oh, yeah.
It's not even that, man, guys. We're going to look at this in a different way. Hello, free agency John Cena. What the fuck are we doing to the brand split? Thoughts on this? Have you guys heard about this?
No.
What?
You haven't, Ruff?
No.
Really? Steven, do you know what I'm talking about?
I have no clue what you're talking about.
Okay, the WWE themselves have put out a bulletin on this. When John Cena debuts Tuesday night on the 4th, he's going to be a free agent. Meaning he can work both Raw and SmackDown.
That's terrible.
That's a horrible idea.
You guys hadn't heard about this for real?
No, but you know what
no.
that's saying? That's saying that well, we're going to send him to whatever show needs a boost in the ratings because he's our money.
Or, yeah, because that's the first part, Ruff. But then that also sets up the idea that, well, what if he could be the catalyst to bring the show back from being split rosters? We've seen that before. We ended up with Jericho as the overall complete champion. And they might just use John Cena for that. They might be thinking, hey, while we like the brand splits, it requires us to do too much. Let's bring them back together. I hope they don't. I like the brand split.
I mean, you wind up losing half of your roster if you wind up bringing them back together because you don't have enough time to support everyone on both casts.
Absolutely. And they went through that before. And we know how Vince thinks.
And it was a huge problem. It was a huge, huge problem. So, as everybody knows, we actually run a Facebook group called Kayfabe Gimmicks. And that's where the name of the podcast came from, or that's the name of the group came from. It depends on how you look at things. But we had a post in here the other day about Raw's roster. I broke it down. Let me go see if I can pull that up real quick. Oh.
While you're doing that, I'm just going to tell everybody out there that Alexa Bliss is the greatest. I just want them to know. Alexa Bliss is the greatest ever.
She's pretty brilliant.
Oh, God.
I mean, sNooVa, I know how you feel for Nia Jax. I know your love, but Alexa Bliss.
She eyed, if you ask me. Oh man, I found it. 3 hours is hard, real hard. It was a Triple H quote that Ruff posted the other day. Now I came in here and I went ahead and I broke it down, right? So Raw has 57 members versus 45 on SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's counting the 205 guys who are supposed to be part of the Raw roster, as far as we understand, as casual fans who watch this program.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you see cruiserweight matches is on Raw. You'll see 1 or 2 a night, and the rest of the time they tell you, hey, go watch 205 Live.
Mm-hmm.
Which we know these guys are actually traveling with the SmackDown roster too to go do that. So last week, this was just last week actually, the 26th of June 2017, 34 people showed up on Raw. There were 2 6-man tag matches, so there's 12 people right there. A gauntlet match of women, so there was another 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
You take Dana Brooks and Emma off of every week. You take Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas. They have not been every week kind of people until maybe recently with this whole Miz angle they're doing. You take off Brock Lesnar. Now you're down to 27 people showing up or having matches on Raw that night. You might as well take Titus out since he's a manager. Take out Lince Dorado since he was a 205 jobber. Now you're down to 25 people who show up or do something almost every week in 3 hours. Less than half your roster. Realistically speaking, you have Miz, Ambrose, both Hardy brothers, Cesaro and Sheamus, Joe, Rollins, Bray, Finn, Alexa, Nia, Sasha, maybe Enzo and Cass. So you go from anywhere to 13 to 15 people, tossing in Aries and Neville as well, counting in the fact that Enzo and Cass are broke up, so they're not going to both show up every week anymore. What the fuck are you doing? When you have a third of your roster maybe showing up every week.
It's cheaper to pay than let them go somewhere else. I mean, let's face it. Why is WWE recruiting the talent it recruits to get it off? I mean, let's face it. AJ's a phenomenal wrestler. Can still go. But AJ really, honestly, length of career-wise, is kind of probably towards the end of his career. But why bring him into WWE? Because they want that money, and also it takes that money away from Japan. And they
I understand that. I do understand that, but what I'm talking about here is the sheer disparity in roster usage. Now, I understand you pay these people so they don't work for other places, but we can't say that 3 hours is hard when you're not using half your people.
It is hard because, you know, if you look at it, so of the let's say a straight 20, okay? Of the straight 20 they use every week, how many actual feuds are built? Like 5. That's half of that 20. Like, really, honestly. The rest of it's fill in pre-matches or just basically why are they even in the ring. If they want to make use of more talent, the smarter thing to do would be to make 205 Live not part of Raw. Make it non-brand specific. You have cruiserweights on both shows, and the cruiserweight champion goes between both shows. Make it the only cross-promotion title. That would be intelligent.
Now look
Because
at
then you
also.
Would be a smart choice. Go on, Ruff.
Let's look at this kind of logic too. If you look at 3 matches an hour, and one of them becomes match a night becomes a tag match, then you're talking 20 people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that means that you have to develop heat even for the matches that are happening that night a lot of the time. So getting 20 out of them when you're having to give a reason for people to pay attention to the other matches later on in the show, that kind of puts you where you're going to be. It's just that they're not doing enough with creative as far as building the storylines. The problem isn't the booking. The problem isn't the amount of people. It's the problem still winds up being on the backs of creative building feuds properly.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree that they have a writing problem. I feel like that is definitely a big part of this. Because you have the talent, is what I'm trying to point out. And if you have the talent, you should be able to pull something off.
You
Let's
have
be realistic,
talent,
right?
but that doesn't mean that you've got the talent in order to be able to keep people engaged. And also, when you're looking at the size of the house on NXT or in any other promotion versus the size of the arenas that you have on weekly television every week, it's a whole different matter of communication. Because one of the biggest things that I always say about trying to be a WWE entertainer is that you have to find a way to be convincing to people at home in the small screen as well as in the rafters of an 18,000 seat arena. Not everyone's going to do that, no matter how talented they are in the ring.
Yeah, and sometimes the biggest problem is creative not knowing what to do with the talent it has. I mean, I think look at certain wrestlers, okay? Damien Sandow, Cody Rhodes, immense talents. What did creative really do with him?
Jack shit. Look, I mean,
Wasted it.
Cody Rhodes is a mixed bag of tricks for me. There was this moment where he debuted. I've talked about it before in previous podcasts. I feel like they had this strong chance to really make something out of him. And there were moments where he kind of shined during the whole legacy whatever shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were moments where, as a standalone guy, he was absolutely terrible. Terrible. Dashing Cody Rhodes was god awful. The best thing he ever did out of it was the disfigured angle.
I mean, if you think about it, though, creative gives you your identity for the most part. They give you, and they let you tweak it a little bit, but then they do this. I mean, look at the difference between that Cody Rhodes and when he became Stardust.
Well, I mean, no, that's a strong point, too, because look at the whole transition from when he was with Damien Sandow, and he felt like the rookie talent.
Yeah.
Another thing for you to remember, sNooV, is that dashing was a means to an end because you couldn't buy disfigured without dashing.
You're right. No, I mean, it definitely all worked out well together, but the whole dashing thing was ridiculous, and, he wasn't very good at talking at that point.
That's for sure.
His mic skills came up a long ways.
Yeah.
And really, they should have had him go over Randy Orton to begin with. And his daddy should have been there as his mic piece if they needed it for the longest time. And that first year could have gone straight into Cody Rhodes becoming your youngest world champion ever. Mm-hmm. His dad's there the entire time. And you go straight into the heel turn. He turns on his daddy. He breaks his daddy. Fuck that shit. Like, Randy Orton didn't do shit to fucking Dusty Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is the one who fucks up his daddy.
Yeah.
And then the whole Goldust Stardust thing would have been even more amazing. It would have been the most amazing thing in the world. There was talks when the brand split happened, actually, of doing Cody Rhodes and Stardust, one on each show.
Oh, that would have been great.
That would have been
It would have been
glorious.
fucking amazing.
I mean, think about it. Think about when Stardust first came out and how great it was. But then you saw kind of creative we've got this popular idea. And they kind of watered it down to the point. I mean, he was with the Ascension. Why? There was no reason for that.
I actually thought that could have been the coolest idea ever, though, at the same time. He was doing the Mr. Sinister gear. It was beautiful.
It
was
could have
a
been
great
good.
entrance.
It could have been good if the Ascension was good.
Well, what happened, man? They were great in NXT. A lot of that came down to creative, and,
Yeah.
you know, it's bad when your fucking announcers bury your talent.
I mean,
And that's exactly what happened with the Ascension.
Yeah,
Everybody buried them.
oh yeah. I mean, look at when they first appeared. Who'd they end up taking on? The Road Dogg, New Age Outlaws, APA, and like 2 other tag teams that just basically got destroyed. And it was like, what? Why would you do this? It was,
Seriously, a JBL came off the desk and came and beat the shit out of them.
yeah.
It was horrible, and it was god-awful, and nobody could understand why they did it. But, you know, cut forward, it's a few years later now. I was really enjoying them on Fashion Vice the other night. I loved them on Fashion Vice. Hey, we only listen to metal and heavy grunge music, man. They're okay talents. They actually, I mean, you give them a little bit of space, you let them have a little bit of fun, and that's the big thing. WWE stifles on the fun.
Oh yeah. Look. They're gonna bring up the Authors of Pain, and they're gonna win the tag team titles. And they're the most boring thing I've seen in NXT in a long time. Literally.
My big problem with NXT, I've been very vocal over the years, is, I mean, because it's a developmental show, maybe, it's so predictable. You know who's coming up, who's not coming up, and all of that stuff just because of how things happen on NXT.
Right.
Yeah. I don't guess Asuka's ever coming up.
I doubt she will.
Which is
Well, we only got about 9 minutes left. I want to cap this out at about an hour here. Let's move on to Asuka. Since we're here, let's do it. Does the streak matter? Start with Ruff.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And no one, I said this in a post on Kayfabe yesterday. No one remembers the strikeout champion in Little League. You don't care. Until you're on the main roster, a streak doesn't matter.
Take your love aside from her. I love her. She's beautiful. She does great work. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the streak itself.
I don't think any streak, whether it's in NXT or any, be it SmackDown, Raw, or any promotion now, really matters. I think we're past that era. If you really think about it, the streaks were big with who? Goldberg and The Undertaker. Back in the glory days of wrestling. I don't think any streak nowadays matters. I don't think if for example, we've all seen the tweet by Daniel Bryan to Cody Rhodes. If you keep the belt for 300 something days, I'm coming for it. Or look at New Day's streak. Did anybody really care about it? Honestly, no.
Some of these streaks have been used as FUs. New Day's streak was a FU.
Yeah.
Beating CM Punk's record, somebody beat it recently. That was an FU.
Yeah, so an AJ Lee's streak,
that was a huge FU.
Really?
And to a shitty person, realistically speaking, in the ring.
Yeah, nobody cares anymore. I don't think Asuka's matters. Now, if they brought her up and did it, would it matter? No, I really don't think it would.
Well,
I think we're past
in its defense, and this is what I said about it the first time somebody brought it up in the first place. The Goldberg streak mattered. It did. Say what you will, right? But when you put out a weekly TV show, 52 days, it's 52 weeks of the year, and you run this kind of a thing, there is this whole sense of anything can happen.
That's for sure.
Goldberg could have walked out of his house, tripped, and broken his fucking ankle any day of the fucking week. He could have pulled a goddamn Triple H and torn his quad. No, sorry, Kevin Nash and torn his quad. Though Triple H did it the same way, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Tore his quad, yeah.
Yeah. Any of these things could have happened. So there is a sense of like, oh, this stuff's important, this stuff matters. Now, in the sense of Asuka, when it's pre-taped and she's getting 3 or 4 weeks of matches done in a day, I feel like it does take away from it. And that's where the Little League conversation has to come into play, because when you're pre-taped and you're getting so much taken care of, it's a lot easier to avoid these certain problems.
Right.
Keep your champion healthy. Keep them alive to do a kind of streak like that. It takes away from it, I feel.
Right.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I don't feel like it's mattered since Undertaker's streak was beaten, and since the heyday of WCW. Like, any streak really. I mean, how many streaks do we talk about? We talk about that streak. We talk about Goldberg, Undertaker, and a lot of people nowadays don't remember the Honky Tonk Man, his IC streak.
For a minute,
it was beaten, wasn't it?
For a minute they were running with Shane Helms' cruiserweight streak.
Mm-hmm.
That was his storyline for a minute as a heel.
I love the fact that Santino had come out at one point and was like, "I'm gonna beat the Honky Tonk Man streak." And that was his big gimmick, dude. Like, literally, like, they would do the little fucking logo at the bottom of the show and show you how much he had to go to beat Honky Tonk Man's streak.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he failed.
Yes, he did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't know that it's been beat as an IC champion. But, I mean, nowadays, no, it doesn't really matter. They make a big deal out of it for Bella and them. But, like you said, those are big FUs.
I will go back to your Daniel Bryan tweet for a reason. I brought this up in Kayfabe. There is an interesting fact in the fact that Daniel Bryan said, "Hey, hold this belt for 462 days." And I don't want to get into it really on this podcast, but I guess I'm going to. Now, Daniel Bryan's health is going to wait for another podcast. Maybe. I don't know. But there is a interesting thought process that if Daniel Bryan has a match in 460 or 58 days now, I think it's been about a week, his Ring of Honor championship was 462 days.
Yeah, I believe it was.
So I would love to see that match. The Bullet Club leading Ring of Honor, Cody Rhodes, 462-day champion, and Daniel Bryan comes out of nowhere and challenges him to on that exact day. My streak versus your streak. Well, who's really the better man?
Not only that, it sets it up, because think about it. What pay-per-view is that going to happen at? It's pretty much going to happen at Best in the World, which would be the best pay-per-view for it to happen at.
CM Punk is the referee.
That would be hilarious. But also, you're talking about the Bullet Club is seen as this faction that comes in and takes over. And Bryan Daniels, an original of Ring of Honor. It would be amazing to see him go back. I don't want to see Bryan Daniels in. I don't want to see it stop for him in WWE. That's where people love him and know him for yes, yes, no, no. I want to see him end it where it started really for him, which was as the American Dragon in Ring of Honor. That's where I want to see his final match happen. I think that's the best place. That brings it full circle for him.
And, that's a big thing on Kayfabe, coming full circle and coming to a close. And I love it.
Things I got to throw in here. Two quick things.
Of course, Ruff has to get involved.
Yes, I do. First thing is another comic book correlation that I really want to point out, because I don't think that anyone has brought this up. I don't really think that it's Roman Reigns' move that caused them to change Cesaro's nickname. Just think about this. He used to be the Swiss Superman, and now he's the Swiss Cyborg, and I think that's directly comic book related.
Interesting.
Because what was the Cyborg Superman, the bad guy?
I kind of like it. I kind of dig it. I really would love to see Cesaro get a final run. What was your other thing?
The other thing is we have to bring this up, that this past week has made history, because never before in a brand split did both shows get headlined by a women's match. I think it's relevant, and they didn't make a big deal about it except for in a couple places on social media, but we've never had both shows main evented by women's matches before.
True.
And I think that's a big statement on where things are as far as where they're putting that title in the big picture.
I agree. My only problem with it is the Money in the Bank match was once again bad.
I had fun with both of them.
I mean, I'm not going to say that they weren't fun, but the ends, if Carmella's going to win, let her win. That's fine. Honestly, I feel like James Ellsworth has outlived his usefulness. He should go on.
I kind of want to see the Becky Lynch versus James Ellsworth match
Oh
at
wait,
SummerSlam.
no wait. If they're going to do that, yes, keep him around. I would pay full pay-per-view price for that.
As always, my name's sNooVa. You can find me on Facebook at Kayfabe Gimmicks. You can find me on Twitter, the real sNooVa, I think. Steven, tell people where they can find you if you care. I don't know.
You can find me in Kayfabe talking bad about Sasha Banks. That's about it. Yeah.
Our resident troll, if you will, one of my favorite people in the world. I'm sure he'll be back again sometimes too. And Ruff, you are what again?
I'm real Ruff Lee on Twitter. I'm official Ruff Lee in most other places. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Tumblr, but you will not find me on Snapchat because I'm already ugly enough without a dog face filter.
I mean, I think you're pretty attractive for a gay pirate.
Well, you know, not everyone can pull off a gay pirate wrestler gimmick nearly as well.
But I was thinking about something else. You were going to say you were a advocate, I thought.
I am.
Wasn't that your whole thing?
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ruff Lee, and I am the advocate for women's wrestling on Kayfabe Gimmicks.
He really is.
And, that is his gimmick, that is his shtick, and, that is where he comes so heavily involved in these podcasts, I think. And, again, I think it was a great opening to Season 3, and I want to thank both of you for your time today. And, this should be fun. Season 3 begins.
I'm excited to see where we go from here.
Remember, like us, follow us, join us in discussions. Our Kayfabe champion is Brandon Bam Bam Corleone right now. And we do a event for every pay-per-view where we have a scorecard. And you can see if you can guess who's going to win better than us. Now, none of us cheat. We don't use the final betting odds. If you do, trust me, it's noticeable. And, come join us. Have fun. I think that's it. Anybody else got anything else?
Nope.
No, you better join the party. If you're a wrestling fan, you're missing out if you're not with Kayfabe Gimmicks.
Boom. Mic drop.